Snap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to What the Health, an independent approach to your health span. Have you noticed how our healthcare system may not have your best interest in mind? Join Dr. Eckel in this fun and sometimes disturbing exploration of the state of healthcare and what it means for you. Now, here's your host, Dr. Eckel.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to What the Health. I'm Dr. Greg Eckel, and I've got my special guest and friend, Susan Bratton, on. Susan, I want to give you a big roundup here of, I love this. You're an advocate and champion of all who desire passionate intimacy. I love that moniker for you. Some new things that I've learned: best-selling author, 34 books, online programs that teach passionate lovemaking, bedroom communication skills, and restorative sexual wellness techniques, which we are going to cover many facets of that. She's a frequent daytime television guest, speaker from the stage, and expert on a myriad of online summits and podcasts. In addition to being a sexpert helping millions of people through Better Lover YouTube channel and Instagram platform, which you can find in the show notes below. She is the CEO of a digital publishing company called Personal Life Media and creator of Next Generation line of Libido products for people across the gender spectrum called The 20. Wow, Susan Bratton, welcome.
Hi, Mr. Greg. How are you today?
Doing great, and so
Good.
Excited for this topic and discussion.
I was really glad, I gave you, 30 different things we could potentially talk about, because one of the things that I realized, I started out teaching passionate lovemaking techniques 15 years ago. Basically because my husband, Sir Tim, you've met him. Tim and we almost lost our marriage due to our intimacy falling apart. And so we learned how to have good sex, and that brought our love life back together. And we were so enthralled, we wanted to go out and teach other people these simple techniques that could really give them the intimacy that they craved. And over the years, I realized, okay, sex techniques are good, but they're not enough. People need communication skills, bedroom communication skills. So I started writing about bedroom communication skills. You said 34 books, right?
Yeah.
Bedroom communication skills. And then I realized, here's the problem. That's not the three-legged stool. The third leg of the stool of having the intimacy that you want is sexual health and wellness. Because if you don't feel well, you don't want sex. And then if you or your partner has health issues, your sex life takes a hit, then you become less connected, the intimacy goes away, then you stop touching because you're afraid to start something or you don't want to make someone feel bad, and then you stop connecting, and then there's a quiet silence that happens, and then you separate and you get lonely in your own relationship, like all this downstream effect.
Oh, yeah.
So what I really was happy to hear that you wanted to talk about on What the Health today was sexual wellness, sexual regenerative therapies, how to have more libido and more desire, what affects arousal, because people have no idea the kinds of things that you can do to get all your parts throbbing with pleasure again.
Sounds awesome, Susan. Yeah. It is really, it's a quality of life matter, right? When you talk about that whole spectrum, and that is so often for couples and the intimacy component, they'll go down that route, and it's like, wow, it's really a symptom of kind of not great health, right? I mean, that connection and health. So I love it. I mean, we can really launch from really anywhere on that. I think let's start with, I want to talk about the libido, desire, arousal, and they're totally different things, but how to feel all three, because those kind of touches on those three areas that you're talking about there. And then we'll kind of weave in some of that sexual wellness and some of the new tech that's out there that's really helping folks, basically regenerate their bodies, right? That's the circle that we're all in. And I think it is such a quality of life thing. So let's start there.
I want you to think about libido, desire, and arousal as a delicious 3-layer cake. And the frosting on top is the sex techniques, and the cherry on top of that is the sexual communication. But libido is the bottom layer of the cake, desire is the middle layer, and arousal is the top layer. Because everything starts with health. I don't have to tell you that, Greg.
Yeah.
Libido is the body base. Do I feel an urge? Do I have mojo? Am I horny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I even want sex? So libido is how healthy you are, because your desire, your libido is the same is one side of the same coin of your overall health. If you don't have overall health, you don't have libido. If you're ill, your libido is diminished. And there are two things that I call the silent libido killers. One of them is gut health. Because if you're not pooping regularly, if the poops are not flowing out of you, like just blah, you know, if there's any effort at all, if there's any dysbiosis, if there's any irritable bowel, if there's any constipation, if there's any diarrhea, all of that is a signal that there's something messed up in your gut. And your hormones are created not just by your adrenals or by your ovaries and your testes, your gonads. They're also created, partially processed in your gut, as are your neurotransmitters. So without the serotonin, the dopamine, and all of these other feel-good neurotransmitters like oxytocin and others, the hormones and the neurotransmitters are depressed because your gut's not working right. So, you know, we all live in a toxic environment. We all have taken antibiotics. We all are using health and beauty aids and all these things, eating foods with GMOs and pesticides in them. And all of these things are ruining our gut. So dysbiosis, getting your gut flowing, is very important. And one of the things that also really affects men and women both, women from the perspective of vaginal lubrication, men from the perspective of semen volume and pre-lubrication, is getting enough healthy fats. So as we age, we wrinkle and we start to desiccate. We actually begin to dry up. So having enough hydration and enough really good fats, and I'm talking about cod liver oil, not just having a half an avocado every day and eating a handful of nuts. It's not enough. We have to get a lot of fats, because often if we're eating meat, we're not eating as much of the fatty parts of meats as we used to. We're eating very lean meat still today. So everyone's not eating the chicken and sucking the marrow out of the bones and things like that. And so you've got, one of the things I do when I get up in the morning is I have a big serving spoon, like a mashed potato spoon, not a soup spoon, a big spoon full of cod liver oil. I take a high molecular weight hyaluronic acid. I take vitamin E, 600, 700 units of mixed tocopherol vitamin E. I take a lipase enzyme with ox bile because I've lost my gallbladder. And I lost my gallbladder from taking birth control pills. That's a downstream effect of hormonal contraception, which is very bad for you. Get off of it if you're on it. I take either black seed oil, 5-seed oil, or Styrian pumpkin seed oil, which, by the way, is excellent for the male prostate and for breast health. So I'm actually taking in a lot of oils, and I'm also putting a lot of organic avocado oil on my skin every day in the morning and every night. And I also use organic avocado oil as sexual lubricant, because if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, you should never put it on your genitals. The genitals are your vagina is called mucosal. It's a mucosal skin, just like in your mouth. It absorbs like a sponge, and it'll absorb the toxins in all of those sexual lubricants. So the KY jellies and all of those things, anything that isn't just a straight up good oil, I would never recommend as a lubricant. So reconstituting your fats and really getting fat so your poop is flowing and you're lowering your stress and you're making your hormones and you're making your neurotransmitters. I think that is very, very important. And then that gets your detoxification pathways moving. So you're peeing because you're hydrated, you're pooping. Hopefully you're getting out and getting your walk because you need your circulation for blood flow, because without blood flow to the genitals, you're missing your lubrication, you're missing your pleasure, you're getting desensitization as you age. A lot of men start to feel like they can't feel, they have difficulty achieving climax. Older women have difficulty feeling sensation, getting genital engorgement, feeling a good climax like they used to. So all this stuff, just keeping everything really running and thrumming through your body, I think is the foundation, and that's libido. And then there's desire, and then there's arousal. But I'll give you a minute to talk.
I love that. I love it. And that is such a great start for on our What the Health listeners, right? You start on that layer, and libido really as being one of those, a symptom of the overall vitality of the individual, right? That drive and motivation and, that on that base level. I love that. You brought in digestion. Thank you. Detox, which that's what the show is known for. So now we get to build up into the fun stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So desire, that's the middle layer of the layer cake, the delicious layer cake. And desire is more of your emotional body. When we think about mind, body, and spirit, we bring that into our sexuality. Our sexuality is sacred. It's a part of our humanity. It's a part of our intimacy and connection. And the kind of love, I always like to say that what I do is I help people turn having sex into making love. I like eye connection, heart connection, deepening our breathing and slowing down together. Some people say, okay, well, that's really tantric sex. Yes, it is. It's tantric sex. Tantric sex, or tantra is the idea that we are the embodiment of spirit, that we are celestial beings, that when we make love, two can become one, and that we can connect in not only pleasure, but the theta state of orgasmic pleasure. And that's the same as meditation. Orgasm and meditation are the theta trance state. And when two lovers entwine in a conjoined trance state, you can touch God together. And that's what divine sexuality is. It's bringing in all of the senses, proprioception, touching, full body touch, awakening the sensual grid, slowing down, dropping in, deeply connecting. I see you, I honor you, I love you. I see you, I honor you, I love you. And getting out of the performance mind, getting out of worry, letting thought go, and just feeling each other. I feel you feeling me. We become one in flow. The world falls away and we're just co-creating pleasure together. That's desire. When you love yourself, when you forgive yourself for your imperfections, when you say, the body that I'm in, it's just a body, but it's a beautiful body because of the incredible, exquisite pleasure that it can co-create. And when you stop worrying about your big butt or your poochy tummy or your wrinkle this or your small that or your big that, when you just let that go and you're feeling your connection and you're allowing pleasure to arise, when you're relaxing and enjoying, I think that is what desire is. Desire is actually rooted in relaxation. You can't get turned on without relaxing first. That's often a common mistake that men make because men are goal-oriented, being testosterone forward, where they want to, I want to turn her on. I want to get her going. And rather than just holding her and allowing her to relax into his arms He's grabbing at her breasts or grabbing at her crotch instead of allowing her the time to literally get the juices flowing. Relaxation lets your saliva come up, your lubrication happen, your eyes can get a little watery. It's all of that flow that actually is the signal of the beginning of arousal that can't happen until you relax. So desire is feeling good about yourself, feeling good about your partner, and allowing the flow to really take its time, listening to the animal body that you live in, checking in with it. What do you need? Do you need to be petted? Do you need to be picked up and kissed and ravished? What does your body want in that moment? And how can you just let whatever it needs be said to your partner, and your partner tell you what they're wanting in the moment? That moment, that presence is really a catalyst for much deeper pleasure and desire.
Lovely. I love your way with the language, Susan. And that, so where do we get this negative component around desire? There's some negative connotations, and that doesn't sound so negative at all, the way that you just put that.
Well, it comes from religious repression, which is rooted in the agrarian construct of civilization.
Wow.
So in order for the wealthy few to enslave the poor masses, to grow crops and produce goods for the wealthy to make money, we look at people as objects, and they are supposed to work, not play. And they are supposed to procreate to create more slaves for society, not to be screwing around making love. So the body is a shameful thing for procreation only, which is how we are controlled by the civilized few, quote unquote, at the top. I don't know whether you've heard of Christopher Ryan. He wrote a really great book called Sex at Dawn.
Yes.
He has a new book out, which is so good, Greg. It's called Civilized to Death.
Ooh.
And on the cover is a monkey in a business suit eating a Big Mac and drinking a Coca-Cola.
Aha.
And I know you hate Big Macs and Coca-Colas. We don't even need to discuss that. That's a given, right?
Right.
But what's interesting is that he talks about how when we moved from the equal economy of the forager, hunter, gatherer communities, where it was not patriarchal or matriarchal, it was community first, where we were altruistic, where we raised our children as a group, where we had permeability to leave one group and join another, that it was before we came together in these agrarian economies where religion rose to suppress our sexual desire. Back in the forager times, a woman would make love with multiple partners because the essence of each partner was downloaded into that child, and therefore everyone in the tribe, that child was part of everyone. And it really is just shame and ignorance and fear that make it difficult for us to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I have a free sex technique for your listeners. And I really love this. I want you to do this with your new girlfriend.
Okay.
It's called the Sexual Soulmate Pact. And it's funny that we're talking about the agrarians and foragers and monkeys and things like that, because when you think about who we are on this beautiful ball called Earth, spinning through space, we like to think about ourselves as mankind, or Homo sapiens sapien, the person who is aware of themselves, sapien sapien, that's awareness. But when you really look at what we are and you look at the tree of life, imagine the tree of life, and you've got the dolphins and the whales on one branch, and you've got the snakes and the frogs and the amphibians on the other branch. And then you've got this big branch and there's some monkeys sitting on the tree. There's the great apes, and their great apes are bonobos, chimpanzees, orangutans, Homo sapiens sapien. We are monkeys. We're ruled by our hormones, our sugar volume, our sleep abilities, the stress that's in our life. And when we think about the fact that we are living in animal bodies and that we are part of the animal kingdom, we're not sitting next to that tree. We're not sitting under that tree,
Right.
reading a book. We're in the tree on the monkey branch. And so we're animals. And what that means is that we are subjected to the hormonal swings and all of the things that make us either need to be held and nurtured and loved and cuddled and stroked and kissed in one moment, or to be picked up and ravished and, held down and manhandled a little bit or whatever in the next moment. And for women especially, men are testosterone dominant and more steady state in your hormones. You wake up every morning with a nice hard erection, I hope, because that's a signal of health. She wakes up and every day she's different depending on where she is in her ovulatory cycle, even after menopause. So if we as a couple, if you download the Sexual Soulmate Pact, what it really does is it acknowledges that we are animals and that just a human is just an animal, and that as animals, we need different things in every moment. And that asking for what we want doesn't mean that the other person didn't do something right. What it does is that opening that communication, honey, here's what I need right now. This is what I need in this moment. Oh, now I think I need this. Oh, plans changed. Now I want to do this. When you get that flow of communication going in the bedroom where you become the greatest lover ever because you're getting the information you need to do that, to give your partner the pleasure that they really want in that moment. When you as the partner can tune in and say, what does my body want? What does my yoni want? Yoni is a Sanskrit word for the female genitals. It's used in tantric sex. And lingam is the male appendage. Mm-hmm. So when you ask yourself, what does my lingam want? And you tell your partner, what does my yoni want? And you tell your partner, how do I want to be loved today? How do I want to be touched? What kind, am I in a devilish mood? Do I want to dress up like a naughty nurse and play doctor? Or do I just need to be held and then crick worked out of my neck and a full body massage? And could you get that thing in my lower back that always gives me a little aggravation? Once you start to do that, and here's the trick to it too, when you get your partner to start telling you things, especially as the masculine, when you say, thank you, baby, got it, how's this, did I get it, is this hard enough or should I go harder? When you start to really acknowledge, appreciate, and encourage her for speaking up, every time she tells you something, she gets rewarded. Then that conversation starts flowing and you get to be her incredible lover. And then you as the masculine get what you want, which is more than anything in the world. You want to give her incredible pleasure. You're biologically driven. You will put her pleasure first over yours every time. You will go without to give her pleasure. That's the way we're wired. Women have, and so do men, an unbelievably massive pleasure potential. And when a couple gets this sexual soulmate pact really flowing between them, all hell breaks loose.
Awesome. Oh, lovely. So we can download that from your site. Yeah. Perfect. Sexual Soulmate Pack.
Yeah, PACT, like an agreement, sexualsoulmatepact.com. And what I like about it is it's fabulous to print it out. It's a little PDF. You print it out, read it together over date night, talk about it, and enter into the pact together, and then practice it. And you'll find that what she says is, thank you so much. When you said thank you, baby, to me, when I said, could you rub my big toe? And you said thank you, I was so relieved that my needs were not only honored, but desired. And it gave me encouragement to tell you even more and to tune in more to myself and my desires in the moment. And I've noticed since we've been doing that, that I really love how you are always just like, thank you, baby. Thank you, baby. Got it. I love that.
That communication is so sexy. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to take a quick station break. This is What the Health, and you are hearing this here. I want you to share this with your loved ones because this is actually how we change the world. Yeah. Following your heart's desire is really important, folks. And so share this because this communication, this is something to be revered and treasured, and that you can have the world and the illusion disappear in this union with a lover. And it is amazing, the way that you've got the language around it and the comfort level. And it's clear you are the expert or the sexpert on this, Susan, because, it's so natural. You've got such a comfort level with it, and sharing it with, countless millions of folks it is how the world changes, right? We get out of that objectification and what gets put out in the consumer world as far as what quote unquote desire should look like. Over the weekend was talking to a friend, and she was talking about, men's use of porn and how it's really scripted. They're kind of the lovemaking script for generations, right? And how to get that out of your head. One, I would say stop using it. Two, this component of creating these packs. And I mean, that is just, juicy, if I can use some of your terms on that. And riveting, it's enthralling. Like these things are, it's really stepping out into the great wild of living, right? And it really, can have all of your senses tingling. Bring it out in me, Susan.
The tingling comes in when we talk about arousal, which
Perfect.
We'll talk about after the commercial.
Excellent. Well, that was it. That was just my station break. So if you're just tuning in now, go to naturecuresclinic.com/podcast. Start this one from the beginning, folks. You can thank us later. All right. So let's go to the top of the cake here. We're going on up to arousal state. So there we go.
Yeah. So remember I mentioned earlier that arousal begins with relaxation? That often instead of trying to get your partner up and turned on, the turn on starts by dropping in together and connecting, creating that emotional connection. I see you. I love you. Here we go. Let's play. What women want in the bedroom is fun and adventure. They want to be transported in an erotic adventure. They want to surrender to their pleasure with you. And the masculine, you have to think about the masculine as being the captain of the boat. He is going to take over the tiller, and she's the boat and he's the captain. He's going to trim the sails and tack and find the wind and keep the course to the destination of pleasure. So she has to be willing to let go of the rudder, the tiller, and let you drive. And if she doesn't believe you have the skill to transport her to the other side of the ocean, she can't let go. So some of the tricks, if you will, for in getting a woman to feel confident about your ability to deliver the pleasure the way she needs it to be delivered is in understanding that she is a fire and you are a light switch. So for the masculine, he is always ready, because at any moment's notice, his woman could be ready to go. Because she's so cyclical, he never knows when that's going to be. He can't tell when she's in ovulation. It's all invisible to him and often to her if she doesn't know her body well. So because he's always ready, he's a light switch. A little stimulation and he can have an erection and he's ready to go. And his erection is his signal, game's on, let's get down. Where for her, she's more like a fire. You start out with some little fluff and a little tiny bit of shavings and some little pieces of kindling, and you light that and you blow on it. And it catches fire, and you put on some twigs, and you just keep adding a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. You don't throw the log on, right? You can't light a log.
Yeah.
The guy is the log, but she's the fire. So she needs that tending and that arousal. Think about a bullseye. Picture a bullseye in your mind. You have the bullseye in the center, and then you've got the white and the red rings, right? So what a man likes is when you go right for the bullseye. He wants your hand on his lingam right away. That is what he finds comforting. He knows that he's getting the touch that he needs. And that's the not that he doesn't want full body touch, not that he doesn't want passionate kissing, not that he doesn't want you to do a little striptease for him, whatever it might be. But what he really wants is the reassurance of a cupping hand on his genitals. That's very calming for him. What she wants is the opposite of that. She doesn't want a grabber. She doesn't want someone to grab her breasts, grab her genitals. She doesn't want that. What she wants is her hair stroked, her eyelids kissed, her neck kissed, her clavicle kissed, her hand squeezed, her feet rubbed, her body full touch up and down. She wants you to work from the outside of that bullseye, those circles on the outside, from the extremities in slowly. That's how you kindle her fire. So women need a lot of touch outside the bedroom, even before they get into the bedroom. And they need a lot of reassurance, verbal approval. They also need adoration. They need to hear that you love them. They need to know what you love about them. They want specific details. And that's difficult for the male body because he's a man of few words. Some men describe them. So I heard one woman, she emailed me the other day and she said, I'm thinking about giving up on my boyfriend. I mean, he's just not loving. And I don't know what to do. He's just wants to have sex and that's it. And I don't like that. And I said, well, he probably just doesn't know what to do. So teach him what to do and teach him about how to romance you. I think what you're missing is the romance part. But he just doesn't know what that is. I sent her one of my ebooks called 30 Romance Tricks That Work Like Magic. It's written for men, and it's based on the 5 pillars of passion. What makes a couple a passionate couple? What kind of romance leads to great sex? And what men, because they're going right for the bullseye, because that's what they want, they forget about going from the outside in. And so you need to romance her and you need to sensually touch her, and then you can sexually touch her. But because they're so oriented toward the goal and, the act, generally, they're just in more of a hurry for that. And so she said, thank you. I really appreciate that you told me not to give up on him. He actually does describe himself as emotionally constipated. And so she said, I'm going to give him this book. So she gave him the book and she said, I circled 5 things in this book that I think are sound the most fun and exciting. And I was wondering if you would just do these 5 things for me. And of course he did. And now he understands what she needs. And he's got very specific examples of what makes her feel romanced and find meaning and passion. Because every woman's different. Every relationship is different. And that's why there's 30 romance tricks that work like magic, not just one.
Yeah.
Because different people want different things. And what I've found is that men just want a checklist. Just tell me what you want, baby. I want to give you whatever you want. Just tell me what it is. And so once women understand that they just need to tell their guy and give him the checklist, and that's not pushy or bossy, you just give him a list and let him do it the way he's going to do it. That way, you're not bossing him around and directing him, but you've given him the information that he needs to be a success, to win, to be respected, which is what he wants.
What do you think? So what is that schism on that simple communication of expressing needs or desires or wants? Like that is such a hurdle for people to get to. You mentioned it earlier too, of like, we're just afraid of communicating together. What is that? What is that?
Well, we have no modeling for it. They don't show it in the movies. In the movies, what does a couple do? They collapse kiss. He puts his knee between her legs and enters her with no warm up at all. So there's no modeling there. There's no modeling, as you said, in pornography. It's degrading to women, and it's completely built for men to keep their sperm fresh. Don't you like the way I said that in a healthy way?
That's one way. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So, and so we just don't know. And that's why there's people like me in the world with bedroom communication skills and explaining the light switch and the wood fire and the bullseye touch technique.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
That is great. Yeah. And that's a really great way of describing it. So, again, bravo there, Susan. So what if, so we're coming down kind of the last third of the show, and there are some things that come up. So I love that we focused in on the communication, because that communication is sexy, and, really getting into that 3-layered pie, that sounds delicious. Now we have an aging population, right? And there are sometimes our pieces and parts, and our health isn't where it should be. Some folks may be getting back into the dating game or into having, better, greater sex. But there is this reality of STIs, and, maybe with hormonal changes, our tissue doesn't get engorged the way it used to. I just had a conversation with a gentleman today after a lecture around erectile dysfunction, and, 50% of men over 40 years old are having some erectile dysfunction. So there's this more on the health front, kind of circling back around here. I know you've been really out there, doing some experimentation, but also advocating and getting educated on the research as well, around different things that people can do to enhance their sexual performance and help with the connection in the bedroom, but actually have things work the way that we think they should.
Yeah. So I like to call myself a sexual biohacker.
Love it.
I do a lot of things to keep my sex life hot. I do everything I possibly can, just because I'm a human guinea pig in that way. That's my jam.
It's a rough job.
I know, right? Yeah. So there are 2 things that that you can really think about for keeping your mojo really juicy as you age. And part of it is supplementation, and part of it is outpatient treatments that you can do to reverse the atrophy from aging, the desiccation, the drying out of aging, the loss of sensation that comes from aging,
Mm.
the painful sex, the urinary incontinence, the nighttime peeing. I'm talking about men and women, people across the gender spectrum have all kinds of, the prostate enlargement, prostatitis, erectile dysfunction, prolapsed organs. There's just so many things that can happen to us, but there's a solution for every single one of those. And mostly it comes with supplementation and sexual regenerative treatments. So let's start with supplementation, because that's something that is, let's just call it, that's the budget easiest thing you can do. And I already talked about lubricant and using something like organic avocado oil, organic sweet almond oil, organic jojoba oil as lubricant, and using it copiously, using a lot of it. I don't recommend organic coconut oil because coconut is a natural antibacterial, and bacteria is actually in your vaginal microbiome. You have a very specific type of microbiome that could be disrupted by coconut oil. So that's one thing. The second thing is supplementation. The first thing that happens is you lose blood flow. Atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of and the plaque on your artery system and your capillary system. Both you get sticky blood that sticks to the sides of the capillary, it sticks to the sides of the capillaries, and the actual capillaries themselves get stiff. The endothelial smooth muscle tissue gets stiff. So you're getting stiffening, slowing, your capillaries are receding, they're not all the way to the end, so you get tingling fingers, cold hands and feet, heavy legs, you get brain fog, you get inability to concentrate, you get there's just like so many things that happen when your enos, your endothelial nitric oxide system, starts to diminish. And just as when you're about 40, your hormones start to decline, the enos system, your nitric oxide pathway, falls off a cliff as well. So you're not getting the blood flow you used to. So most men, the first thing they do is they take a Viagra. Because what that does is it's a PDE5 inhibitor. It relaxes the blood vessels and lets blood flow in, and then keeps it flowing in because it essentially keeps the blood flowing so that you get a hard-on. Well, women have the same amount of erectile tissue in their vulva, in their yoni, as men do in their lingam. But we're innies and they're outies. So you can see the canary in the coal mine, where he's not getting as hard as he used to. He's having what's called venous leaks, the most common kind of erectile dysfunction, where he can get the blood in, but he can't keep it in. He gets bendy. He can't keep his firmness. That's venous leak. That's the endothelial cells not locking open to hold the blood in, to trap it in. Women are, if your husband is having erectile dysfunction, so are you. You just forgot how good it used to feel. Mm-hmm. So what do? You take a nitric oxide supplement. What I realized, and I've just come out, can I show you my products? I literally got my product today.
Oh, fun.
It literally came in the mail today. I've been waiting for this. This is called Flow. And awesome. It is the first nitric oxide supplement that is made out of organic foods.
Ooh.
You can make, so mostly what you would do is you would take for nitric oxide, you would take arginine or citrulline. And it's mostly made in China. They take cornfields that they've sprayed pesticides on. They get the corn, they put it in a big hopper. They heat it up and they make the corn liquor out of it. They inoculate it with a bacteria that eats the corn liquor and poops out the arginine. If they want citrulline, then they put an enzymatic process back in there that turns it into citrulline. All the pesticides from that field end up in the supplement. So I didn't want pesticides in my supplement. So what I did was fermented watermelon, which the Latin name is citrullus. That's what citrulline is. It comes from watermelon. Watermelon and spinach, which gives you nitrate. So you get two plants that are two different pathways of that enos system to essentially your blood vessels have a tone to them, a tightness. And when the nitric oxide pathways open up, the blood vessels relax and dilate. It's called vasodilation. The blood can flow to your brain, your heart, and all your parts. And so what happens is, instead of needing to take a PDE5 inhibitor like Viagra, which gives you stuffy face and vision problems, and it's pharmaceutical, you can go the natural route and just get your nitric oxide systems topped back up again. So this is fantastic both for women and for men, and it helps with all sorts of blood flow issues, not just genital blood flow. So it's like, for me, it's another layer cake. It's the stack of sexual supplementation starts at its foundation with a really high quality nitric oxide supplement, something made from real foods, organic, no pesticides, that you can take every day so you can think again, and you can feel your fingers and toes again, and you can get lots of blood flow to your genitals, because women need as much blood flow or engorgement as men do. We need to feel our pleasure.
That is awesome. Congratulations on that. And in creating a product you can stand behind is awesome.
Thank you.
And that, I mean, you're talking cardiovascular health right there. Like that is the system in optimal wellness. So bravo. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to create libido supplements, botanicals that support libido. And I studied all of them, the ginsengs and the fenugreeks and all the different yohimbine and horny goatweed. And I looked at all the data, not just the ancestral wisdom of what we've been taking for eons to get because everybody wants to feel more desire. When you feel more desire, more passion, you have more passion for life. So your libido being the same thing as your lust for life. Your lust is your lust for life. You feel more alive when you feel turned on. And I looked at all the data and I said, there are really only a couple of things that have been tested on humans, not just on like sluggish rats.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a lot of sluggish rat data, but I wanted okay, what's really working on men and women both? And what I found was that fenugreek, Tribulus terrestris, and Tongkat Ali, or Uricomia longifolia, those three botanicals from different parts of the world, which have been used as libido supplements for the eons, but have also been tested on people to show significant improvement in libido, desire, arousal, and sexual satisfaction. And then I realized I was listening to Ben Greenfield, and he was doing something at the A4M, which is the longevity conference. He's a biohacker, and he was talking about testosterone. And he said, I'm going to tell you all this stuff, but if you're not getting enough vitamin D, enough vitamin C, enough vitamin E, enough boron, enough selenium, if you're not getting your daily vitamin mineral complex, don't go out and get all these things, because you need the foundation. I'm always talking about the foundations of health, right?
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was putting the libido supplement in the daily multivitamin mineral.
Oh, rock on.
So what I like to say is it's a one a day with a little something more. And so isn't that so fun? And I made it so couples could take them together, and I made them pretty. And I made them really high quality vitamins and minerals, a beautiful daily vitamin and mineral with Tribulus, fenugreek, and Tongkat Ali. And what I like is the idea of take your vitamin every day. It comes, the libido supplements right in with it. It's two capsules a day. But I like the idea of rotating through the botanicals. Instead of taking everything every day, look, we're more sensitive as human beings. Our instruments are very sensitive. And I wanted there to be a separation between the Tribulus, the fenugreek, and the Tongkat Ali. I didn't want to just load it all up and have to take 6 vitamins. I wanted it to be something where you were able to herb cycle and see which one made you feel better. and try each one for 30 days and then look back and say, which one of these did I prefer? Were they all good? Was there one that made me feel a little bit better? Because we're all a little different. There's always that bell curve where for some people, they're like, I loved the fenugreek. By the way, the fenugreek makes your fluids taste like maple syrup.
Interesting.
Gives you a sweet taste, which is
Yeah.
a benefit of fenugreek. But Tongkat Ali is very good for things like erectile rigidity. So there's that. They call it long jack.
Yeah.
And women need as long a jack as our partners. And then the tribulus is really more of a desire, more of like an overall kind of desire piece of things. So instead of sticking it all like a kitchen sink, I said, let's give people the opportunity to see what resonates with them, or that they decide they just want to keep cycling through and having the experience of. And then there's one last piece. So if you think about blood flow as the foundation, then you think daily vitamin mineral. We need the boron to attach the free testosterone to our receptors, all that stuff's in there with the libido supplement. And then the last thing that I'm working on is an energy bar with maca and cacao. That chocolate that's good for you? It's the polyphenols that open up the blood vessels. The maca is one of the most powerful libido materials there is. And yet you'd have to take a big handful of pills to get enough of it. So I said, I'm putting that in a peanut butter chocolate energy bar. And that is my next product. So boom, boom, boom. There's the stack. It all works together.
Love it. Oh, I love it. That's great. Make it easy and enjoyable. I like it.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. You're improving people's health. You're improving their connection. You got more love coming into the world. So thank you for all of those things. Coming down the home stretch here, we have about 5 minutes. So we can go a couple different routes. I love your action stack. So I've got all of your contact information in the show notes. So that's where people can get a hold of you, get some of those books, and also get some more information on these lovely supplements as well. Yeah. We were going to talk, there's a little bit on, so the next level, right? So that's the foundational stuff.
Yep.
And now, we were talking about, there's the highly functioning genitals of a 30-year-old as a 60-year-old.
I'm wondering if I could come back and do another show with you.
You totally can, because I think that's probably a broader discussion.
There's a lot to it, and people are like, are you serious? I'm doing that. Like, as soon as people hear about it, they want to do it, but it takes a while to unpack it. I'd love to do a whole show with you on sexual regenerative therapies.
Love it. You're on, Susan. Yes, that is
I got myself a second date, Greg.
Love it. I like how you did that. And you just keep that coming. That's good for me. So
I get it. Keep it coming.
I like that communication. Now you're making me blush a little bit. So in closing, what would you like to share with our viewers and listeners out there?
Well, I think what I'd like to do is just make sure you know where to find me, because I have so many free things for people. Sex techniques, workbooks, downloadable PDFs, free videos. I've got my whole Better Lover YouTube channel. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Susan Bratton, SUSAN. Bratton, Susan Bratton. And I think that if anything that I've said to you is something where you're like, you know what, I'd like to know a little bit more. I have so much more for you, and I love to give away my free things. Of course, anything that you want to buy from me is fine. But I have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of followers who are broke and they just love my free stuff, and I just love to give. So never any pressure, but lots of opportunities. So I'd love to have you in my world.
Love it. Thank you, Susan, for sharing so much. And I really do look forward to our
Me
next
too.
show on that,
Yeah.
because that is a huge topic. And, we're running in kind of similar circles of the folks that are, really cutting edge on all of these topics. And really the whole goal of What the Health and the show is really healthcare should promote thriving. This is a big piece of that when I'm interviewing my patients and looking at, okay, well, what is your connection? What is your intimacy? Where are these pieces for you? Because it is a big quality of life. Like, that's what we're doing out here. And to be able to support people with having more intimacy, more connection, more pleasure, these are big things that, for some reason through time, as we've discussed, have become taboo for control issues or reasons. And, really I'm encouraging folks to get out of the cage, kind of step out into the wild, and start living in a kind of a full contact, broader sense, because it's time. That's what we're all doing out here. I really appreciate you coming on. I've got your contacts also on the show notes, so people can just click the button to find Susan, connect with her. She's an awesome woman. I've known her a few years, and I just, let's just keep the conversation going. So everybody, this is What the Health. Susan, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks to everybody.
And this is What the Health. We are here Tuesdays from 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific time. Please share us with your friends and family. Leave us a comment if you like the show. Go on to your favorite podcast platform and give us a review. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.